there everyone, it's Jenna. Welcome or welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're gonna be decorating our front living room area. And this is actually the first room that you see when you enter our home. So I really wanted it to feel casual and relaxed, using lots of organic materials with a super earthy color palette. That's just the vibe that I'm going for in this space. So I'm actually gonna break down my decorating process step by step and kind of explain to you why I make certain design choices and how I style a space. So hopefully you're able to learn something and just get some fun decorating inspiration from this video. So I hope you guys enjoy, and without further ado, let's get into it.
Okay, so because this space was just kind of long, it needed to be broken up into different zones. So a really easy way to define a separate space within a larger room is to ground it with a rug. So I decided to take this opportunity to add a fun punch of pattern to the space by incorporating this checkered rug. I bought this online from TJ Maxx a while back, and it was actually super affordable for its size, but it currently is back in stock, so I will link it below. So along with the rug, I wanted to define the space a bit more by adding a sofa, and with the sofa's back being to the rest of the room, this really helps to define the area that I'm trying to work with because it creates a conversation flow that faces the window and helps to section off the space. So I found this sofa at the Crate and Barrel outlet, and I was really drawn to the natural linen material and the laid back feel of it. So next we wanted to add some seating opposite the sofa, but I knew because this space was on the smaller side, I couldn't use anything too bulky, so these sling back chairs were perfect because they have light lines and they're lower so they don't block the view out the window. So now that we have the seating situation kind of figured out, I wanted to do something to add some height to this focal wall, and because this is where the fireplace is, your eye is naturally drawn there, so I wanted to add some shelves to emphasize it and break up all of the plain white that we have going on with the contrasting black rails on the shelves. And this is great for a rental because it kind of gives off a mock built-in look. Shelves are a super easy and affordable way to add visual interest and added decorative storage to a space. And as you can see, we have a ton of 90-degree angles in this space with the shelves, the rug pattern, the sofa, so I needed to break that up visually with some rounded edges, which is why I chose to go with a round coffee table in this room. But once I got the coffee table in here, this room was just looking super beige. When you have too much of one color in a space without much contrast, it can tend to fall a bit flat.
Okay, so I figured the quickest, cheapest, and easiest way to fix this beige problem that we have going on is going to be to cover this fireplace with something peel and stick. And that's because it's right in the center of the room, so covering this will really help to break everything up and just add that punch of contrast and variation that we need, and just keep the space from falling flat with beige, beige, beige on every eye point that you see in this room. So I do have a couple of peel and stick options. So the first option that we have is this really beautiful, heavy veined, kind of purplish, maroonish marble. And I love this. I've always wanted to use this kind of marble in a space. I see lots of designers using it and I think it looks so beautiful, but I did put it out with our carpet just so I could kind of see what it would look like wrapped on this fireplace. And unfortunately, I think that the carpet really does limit what I can do pattern wise because it is so busy feeling. I just don't want too much for the eye. I want this space to feel calm and relaxed, so I don't want to have too much going on visually. So after rolling that out, I kind of decided against this, but I am going to keep it for a future project. And by the way, all of these options were under $30, and I will link them all below because they are really great deals. Some of them I got on Amazon, some of them I got at the store here, but I figured that this was a really pretty way to kind of update a space. There was also this option, and this I found at Lowe's, and I really liked how it just is a very neutral slate. It has kind of a matte texture to it, which I really love. It's not too shiny, and honestly, I feel like this would be my #1 pick just because it's very classic and it would add that punch of contrast that I'm wanting. But I actually had an idea to use this somewhere else in the house, so I'm gonna save it for that. So I did decide on this pretty kind of like dark gray marble. So it does have some veining detail, which does help to add some visual interest, but it's not too much. It's not like the other purple one to where it's very busy and loud. This one's a lot more subtle, and it's just gonna look good adding that punch of contrast in here and keeping all of the materials very natural and earthy. So yeah, hopefully this won't take me too long. We're just gonna cover up this tile and hopefully it'll be the little punch of contrast that we need.
So working with this stuff was actually super easy, at least for this small project. I found that it was really forgiving, and there were so many times when I didn't line it up correctly and then I had to keep peeling it up and resticking it, and I was able to do that with no problems. I did use this little yellow scraper that actually came with the burgundy and white contact paper, and that was really helpful, so I would definitely recommend using something similar. And this was my first time ever doing peel and stick, so I felt like it was a good project to start with since it was smaller, but I was definitely impressed. I also kept getting these air bubbles, especially if I kept resticking the piece, and I found an easy way to fix them was to use these tiny lancet needles that you can find at the drugstore, and basically you just pop super tiny holes into the paper and it lets the air out, and I was able to remove all of my air bubbles this way, but it might not work if you're doing somewhere like a countertop and want it to be waterproof, so just something to keep in mind, but it worked for this. And then to trim the excess, I used the plastic scraper here on the bottom.
Okay, so we're gonna be at a stopping point for today because I actually ran out of paper. There's not enough here to finish this section, so I'm gonna have to order some more, but it was only $11.99 per roll, and I'm really happy with how it's come out. Honestly, you can barely even notice the seams, like your eye has to search for it. The pattern just kind of blends together really well, and I felt like working with it was super easy. It doesn't leave a residue or anything, and I feel like it's just a super easy and quick fix for, you know, making this look like real marble. So I'm gonna order that other roll and then we'll finish this up and get to styling.
So the next day, of course, I left the hard pieces for last, but it wasn't too bad. I made this little template out of scrap paper just to get the rough shape of the curves, and then I traced that paper flipped upside down so that the marble side of the paper would have the same shape as the template. And this worked really well. It fit on there perfectly, and I just did the same thing to the opposite side and then added some on the corners, and that was it. This took me maybe an hour to do and cost less than $30, and I'm so happy with the final look and how it adds that block of contrast that we were needing to this space, and the marble just looks super realistic, and I love the natural feel of it. So next, I knew that we needed to soften this space a little bit and make it feel more custom and homey, and one of the best ways to do that is to hang curtains. I also always hang my curtains higher than the window to help give the illusion of taller ceilings, and then one of my favorite places to get affordable yet expensive looking curtains is IKEA, and I love these sheer textured curtains because they help to give off that casual laid back feel that I was going for. And the best part is that it was only $18 for a set of 2 curtains. I also got all of my hardware as well as these large finials from IKEA, and we just hung them as high as we could on this wall to again help to give the illusion of a taller ceiling. And just by adding these curtains, you can see it really makes a huge difference in this space. It helps to soften and define this wall, and the sheer look and subtle texture on the curtains helps to give off a more organic resort-like feel. So it's now officially time to start styling the space and layering in all of the accents and finishing touches. So I really loved the dark wood tone of these accent chairs, but right now they kind of stand out because there's no other dark brown elements in this space. So to tie that in, I brought in this gorgeous chocolate antique bench, and this also just helps to break up the blockiness of the sofa and gives it a warmer, more organic feel with that distressed wood. Now I wanted to soften the sofa a bit with some textiles, and whenever I'm picking out a throw for a sofa, I almost always choose a contrasting tone. So if the sofa is light, I'm going to search for a darker throw and vice versa. So I saw this stunning chocolate brown gauzy throw at IKEA, and I knew that it would be perfect for this space. I love how it helps to add some contrast but still keeps the color palette really natural and earthy. I also wanted to add some functional decorative storage underneath our coffee table, so I used this little trunk that I found at Hobby Lobby to store some of our smaller tabletop games that are perfect for when people come over. I also love how this helps to give the space more of an exotic look with the travel trunk and the natural materials that it's made out of. So now that we have some functional decor down below, I wanted to add some aesthetic styling pieces to the top of the table. And I love using coffee table books because they help a space to feel more cozy, and they don't have to be expensive. I just found both of these at the thrift store for a couple of dollars each. They act as a nice little riser for this antique rustic pot, and I love using distressed vases and planters throughout my home because the worn texture helps a space to feel more lived in, which usually translates to a casual, comfortable space where nothing feels too precious. And a lot of times with larger mouth vases, it can be hard to style stems in them, so I always use a mason jar to help give my florals some structure. And this was actually just a pasta jar that I rinsed out because I got rid of my old mason jar in our move. So really you can use whatever you have on hand as long as it's heavy enough so the stems don't tip over. I find glass works really well, especially like larger glass containers. So because I'm going for a more rustic feel in this space, no stem is more rustic than an olive branch in my opinion. And these are my all-time favorite olive stems. They just look super lifelike and natural and help to give off that Mediterranean rustic feel that I love so much. And here I used 5 stems total, and that pasta jar just really helped to give them that structure that they needed. So like I said before, I wanted to keep the color palette in the space really earthy and neutral, but I've always wanted to style a space with some subtle green accents. So one day when I was at Ross, I saw this pack of 2 textured earthy green pillows for only $24, and I knew that they would be perfect for this room. And then I was at a different Ross another time and I found the matching square pillows, which was perfect. So I used the lumbar size to style on our accent chairs, and I love these so much. When creating a more casual feel in a space, textures become really important. So I try to use natural textiles, things with a more gauzy or linen-y look to them, just to help keep things feeling earthy and grounded. And I also love that these tie in with the green and the olive stems as well. Now that we have a little pop of contrast and subtle color, I wanted to do something to add a tiny bit of height next to the door. So I brought in this large terracotta floor vase, and again, this ties in with that darker contrasting brown with those warm earthy undertones. And honestly, when going for a natural calming feel, you almost can never have enough greenery in a space because it just helps relate the space back to nature. So I used this large faux olive branch to add another pop of green and that height that I was wanting. So now that we have this side of the room all styled, it was time to add some decor to the shelves. And I do plan on doing a full shelf styling video one day, but for now I'll give you some of my top tips. The first one is to use larger scale pieces. If you try to cram a bunch of small things onto a shelf, it can end up looking super busy and like there was no intention behind it. And an easy way to do this is by using a large vase and then accenting it with a smaller vase. This can take up an entire shelf, and it's a really simple concept, but it gives off that designer feel by utilizing the design trick of repetition. Another important thing to remember when shelf styling is to alternate the weight between shelves. So for example, here the top shelf is weighted on its left side. So on the shelf below it, we would want to have most of our decor on the right side of the shelf just to help it feel balanced. I also love styling with faux or real succulents because it's a natural and subtle way to incorporate a pop of greenery. I also love utilizing shelves to display some of my collected antiques. Something that I like to look for while antiquing are pieces with distressed wood. They just have that patina that can only be created by time, and I love the rustic warmth that they help to add to my styling. Another thing that I always incorporate when decorating shelves are books. Especially within a living space, it just helps to give off a cozy feeling. I also like to alternate the direction of the books when I'm styling them just to help balance everything out. So on some shelves, I'll lay the books flat and use them to elevate decor pieces, and then on other shelves, I'll switch up the direction and stand them up with a bookend just to help create an effortlessly styled look and feel. Another thing I intentionally try to do is keep the books that I use within my color palette just to help punctuate those earthy tones. In this room specifically, I wanted to style with natural materials, so things like marble, glass, wood, and clay. This just helps to give everything a really earthy, organic look. And these clay sculptures were actually made by my grandma, and she recently gifted them to me. I love them so much, and the earthy terracotta gives a nice subtle pop of color. Also, if you do have some smaller items that you want to display, a trick to help them look more organized is to style them together on a tray. This just helps them to look more intentionally grounded and cohesive instead of a bunch of tchotchkes just placed together. I also love to use storage boxes of varying sizes just to help take up space and to practically store things like crafts, stamps, remotes, things like that. And here again, we're alternating the weight of the shelves and placing similar items on opposite sides, which is key to having that visual balance. Woven baskets are also an easy thing to style with because they can take up a lot of space and they also help to hide clutter, they add texture, and they give off a natural look. And that is it. Our shelves are all styled with some of my favorite collected pieces that have meaning and help to contribute to the overall earthy, casual feel of this space. I'll probably end up editing these later on as we unpack more boxes, but I'm really happy with how these look as of right now. So the last thing that we need to do is add our pillows to the sofa just to help tie this space together. So I started with those green square pillows that I found at Ross, and I love the texture of these combined with the gauzy throw. Muslin and gauzy textiles are my favorite. I think they look super high-end but give off that casual rustic feel. So when I found these tan gauzy pillow covers at IKEA for only $10, I immediately threw them in the cart. And this looks really good layered on top of the chocolate throw to add even more contrast. And then on the other side, I chose this greenish striped throw pillow, another green pillow, and then this really beautiful textile print pillow that has some of those earthy green tones in it. I actually found this at Hobby Lobby a while back, but I'll link some similar ones because I am just loving the slightly exotic feel that that textile print gives off. So here is the blank slate that we started with, and here is the finished look. I am loving this new space with all of the earthy colors and that subtle pop of green. I love that I was able to use mostly things that I already had, but I was able to create an entirely new look from our last home by just adding in a couple of new and affordable accents. This space feels perfectly balanced with the right amount of contrast and pattern, and this room totally sets the tone for the rest of the house, perfect for curling up with a book or hosting some fun game nights.
All right, everyone, that about wraps up this video. I hope that you enjoyed our first ever makeover video in this new space. If you did, please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up because it really does help to support the channel. And also be sure that you're subscribed because I have a ton more makeover videos coming. I'm really excited to share them with you all, so make sure that you hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of those. And also, as far as all of the products in this space, I will do my best to link what I can in the description box. And if I can't link the exact product, I always try to link something similar. So that is there for your reference. I just want to thank you all so much for watching this video. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I will see you guys in my next one. Bye!